Yeah, the first common mistake is no objective or executive summary, and it really kills me. And the big thing about this is I know why no one uses it, because everyone says it's useless, right? But that's because it's being used incorrectly. The reason why you want to use an objective is because you can force a first impression. When employers are looking through your resume, they have it open, and they have 7, 15, 30, 60 seconds to look through it. And they're not going to read the whole thing. They're going to skim through it. But if you give them an easy way to skim through and to know exactly what you're trying to put out there, that would be with an objective. And you're going to say, this is who I am. This is what I'm looking for. This is what value I can bring, right? So bad objective, what is it? It's generic. It's self-focused and says nothing valuable. So an example of bad objective: to find an opportunity after graduating in 2021 in esports marketing. The thing about this objective is, again, it's generic. It doesn't really say anything about you, and it's focused on what like you're looking for, or what you want, right? You just want to find a job, right? This doesn't tell me like how you would fit into my company. Let's look at a good example. I have one here from Christy that we did a while ago. Management oriented, self-motivated, passionate, and caring brand ambassador with extensive experience in working under pressure, player management, and attention to detail. An art student with a love for games and drive to bring people together one mini game at a time. So one of the reasons why I really like this, I can still skim this in like 7 seconds and like decide if I want to read the resume or not. I love this last part because, especially in esports, when you really want to show that you are endemic into the scene, this gives you some personality. It talks about your education. It says that you like games. And like this little like corny line is actually, I find really cute. I like it. And it's like, haha, like when gamers talk about life like it's a game. But I also know what she's about. She's a brand ambassador, and she's probably looking for work in player management. I'm not sure, but it helps me frame who she is, what she's trying to do, and how she can be valuable to my company. So that's a good objective. So a good objective, what is that going to include? What you can do for the company / in the position, that you'll be valuable to them, and then who you are in a very simple way. And I know people hate using objectives. People say it's a waste of time, but that's because they're using it incorrectly. They're just using it to be like, I like games and I want to be in esports. Okay, number 2, using a generic resume. We've definitely talked to people that want to send their resume on blast, which is like a shotgun approach. But that's the thing. When you have most people doing this too, all your resumes feel the same. Also, reading these resumes, I know that they're a generic resume and not catered towards the job, right? Because we're looking for a community manager, and we talk about being mostly on our Discord and interacting with people on social and throwing maybe live events, right? Maybe those are the 3 things that we're asking for in the job posting. But suddenly this resume is talking about social media, live events, which are great. And then it starts talking about managing a team of players in college and a lot of the editing work that they did for different YouTubers. It gives a lot of irrelevant experiences to the resume that I'm like, why is this in here? It's like, oh, this is a resume that's sent on blast. Should you mention the company and the objective? I 100% think so, because then it just feels more personalized to me, and you're talking to me rather than you're not just talking to the abyss. Including irrelevant experience and skills really can hurt you, because everyone always has issues keeping their resume to 1 page. It's like really, really difficult to do that, I think, for a lot of people, because everyone wants to say so much about themselves. So when you have a 1.5 page resume as your first draft, you're like, how do I cut this down? And then you end up like scrunching everything and just like changing the font to be smaller. And then what happens is, like, remember I said employers have like 7, 15, 60 seconds to look at your resume. What happens when you have the esports marketing position and I'm looking for certain lines that talked about launching social media campaigns? But instead, as I'm skimming through, I don't see that, because out of the 12 bullet points, I actually see you talking about community management stuff. I see you talking about video editing stuff. I don't see campaign management. Well, suddenly your resume, when you could have been qualified, doesn't get past the next process because I didn't know you have campaign management experience, right? So including irrelevant experience clogs up your resume and hurts your chances. Every bullet point matters, like I said, and this will also help you lead to more white space slash room in your resume. Leaving more white space on your resume really helps you see what you're looking for and it guides your eyes, right? Having something that's really stuffed, like the skill section, is really hard to skim through. And therefore, most people don't skim through it. I recently saw this stat where people with like more than 3 lines in their resume, like each bullet point, get hired less, get interviews less. You need to make your resume skimmable. Third point is impactful bullet points. You guys heard me say this so many times. People list out their responsibilities with no results. Impactful bullet points, bad. When they're vague, doesn't prove anything, and they're just straight up unimpressive. Community manager at high school esports club. Awesome. That sounds really exciting. They were involved really early. What did they do? Kept online community involved through game nights. Okay. Publicized esports events. Okay. Recommended esports volunteers, students, opportunities for students. Literally, this is just a to-do list, a checklist of the things that they've done and their responsibilities. I even watched a YouTube video recently of a product manager at like Facebook and Google and all these like fintech, like huge companies. And they're just like, where's the numbers? Where's the numbers? Where's the numbers? I don't see any numbers. Because what they're looking for is like how much money you saved, how much money you gained, how much efficiency you've affected. So the big number that I see in this one, when I like this resume a lot, is 70 participants. Holy crap, you ran a live stream tournament for 70 participants? That's a lot. That bullet point tells me, okay, so this person knew how to coordinate and get people on time to these events. This person found 70 people to participate in, so they must have done some marketing, right? They did multiple. So they have this reoccurring process. They know how to do this. It wasn't a fluke. And they had people come back. So the first one and the second one and the third one wasn't like horrendous where people didn't want to come back. But then when I look at this resume where it says, kept online community involved through game nights, this could be 3 people. What if instead we said, coordinated weekly game nights for over 150 people with regular attendance of 15 people? That says something, right? But the question I have here is like, I don't know how legitimate this experience is in your esports club is, right? So what you do, going back to this, good things to do. Show your success. Brag about your success, right? Show metrics. Numbers are always really, really good to show. Impact, accomplishments, problems solved. These are the things that we want to see because if you tell me that you've accomplished something, I already have in my head Wormlax in chat wants to apply for our position. And he said he did this and had this accomplishment. Wow, what would that look like in Golden Guardians if we hired him? Wow, he said that he produced a YouTube subscriber base from 0 to 10,000. Whoa. So if that means we hired him to be a content editor or our YouTube manager for ours, we can grow from 10,000 to 20,000. That sounds really great. I like this Wormlax guy. When you show how you've solved a problem, when you show you've done good work, when you've proven it in your resume, I can picture you in the position that I'm looking for. That's why this is so important to have impact, right? Otherwise, your bullet points could mean absolutely nothing. Drew, I really like what he did. He kept his bullet points short but punchy. Generated over $1,000 of revenue weekly by overseeing 5 rental spaces. That says a lot. Supervised over 15 lifeguards to ensure workplace standards were met. Okay. So all these, he's painting a very clear picture of what he's done. And even like, this is kind of just listing out his responsibilities, but those responsibilities are giving more impact, right? Fourth point, information prioritization. This is like my buzzword. I love using it because I think it explains everything that I'm trying to. But it's pretty much organization. A little more complicated than that because you can have an organized resume that makes sense, but the information priority, The priority that you give information can be completely wrong. Make sure that your important info is highlighted first. Done poorly, attention is taken away from the important stuff. And you have to remember people are skimming your resume top to bottom. Every line they go through your resume, they are losing more and more interest. Let's look at a bad example. This is an old one I did years ago. I would say it starts out okay, but what ends up happening is this stands out, the project section, and it seems like a big deal. But I say absolutely nothing in this. So suddenly seems so important in my resume, and it's not. Probably my professional experience is the most important. Maybe certain expertise or skills, but even these are kind of fluffy right now. And then my about me is actually probably really important if I did it right. So these projects, what I would do is put them really, really low and keep the links there, but put them underneath this, right? That's bad prioritization. And this is the weird thing about organization versus prioritization. This is really organized. If someone wants to look at my projects, they can find my projects right away. If they want to look at my experience, they can look at my experience right away. But we're not just trying to make something organized. We're trying to make something that convinces them to hire me, to give me an interview. There's a reason why a package on a shelf at a store is marketed the way that it is, right? There's a reason why they use the colors. There's a reason why they use the fonts. There's a reason why certain fonts are bigger than others. It's all about prioritizing the information that you want to get to your customer immediately, right? So when I think about your resume, most likely you want to have the objective stand out so that you can force that first impression and they can quickly skim through it and see the information. Then your experiences, then probably your skills. That would be my idea of how I would want to prioritize information. Fifth point, writing a resume to get a job, not the interview. When you're trying to write a resume to get a job, you're going to putting way too much info on your resume. And then it gets stuffed and compacted, and it's like really hard to look at or skim through because you're trying to tell your whole life story and how amazing you are for this job instead of telling the story that's going to get you an interview, right? Focusing on a few things, doing that really well, and speak much louder than saying poorly you do everything. The big concept here is what ends up happening is that if you're able to convince me that like you're really good at one thing, what ends up happening is I assume you're good at everything else around that thing. I've had this happen with me with editors. I found an editor that makes amazing League of Legends cinematics, right? I already assume that he knows how to find gameplay, knows how to pick the best plays, and meaningful plays to make a highlight reel. What are the big 3 things that I'm really good at that I can talk a lot about? Maybe I have the most accomplishments in and the strongest bullet points on my resume. And how am I gonna make sure that the person reading this is like knows that, oh, I'm really good at campaign management, like creating, brainstorming social media marketing campaigns and executing them and then converting into sales. Like I just need to prove that. And if you can prove that in your resume and like make me want to talk to this person more and be like, wow, this person's really good at it. Now I really want to talk to him. Does he know how to do this on YouTube and Twitter? Because he talks a lot about Facebook marketing campaigns. So don't stuff your resume with so much information because you're not trying to get a job with the resume. You're trying to get the interview. The interview is going to help you get the job. All right. Those are my 5 points, but I do have a bonus one. Got a bonus one. This is really specifically for esports. Show you're interested in esports / gaming. This is really big, and I've forgotten to do this on some of my resumes, but this is what's super, super unique to the esports and gaming industry. You need to show your interest in it, right? I've talked about this earlier. I've talked about this on previous streams, and that's why I'm talking about it now. Like showing you've done work in esports, showing that you play games and understand the games means so much more, and it's so much easier to teach people skills than to teach people esports and gaming. When I work with our editors, some of them are familiar, like we're not familiar with all the games. And some of our editors are familiar with one game, but not the other. So when we have to sit down and be like, hey, you're making this highlight reel, but that play, it's more impactful if you show the 3 players involved rather than just this one player, because everyone's talking about, wow, that guy flashed forward and it was amazing. Oh, but you didn't see the speed boost that this was given, and you didn't see the setup for like the vision, and something like because they're more familiar with like the history of esports or the specific game that they're editing about, they're able to edit differently. And when you have 2 equal candidates and one doesn't talk anything about esports and gaming and one does, I'm gonna go with the esports and gaming person if they're equal, like 100%. And they both could have been that, but one didn't mention on the resume. So knowing that or showing that is super, super important in some way, shape, or form. So if you need extra help with your resume, let me know. We have a Discord link, which will be in the description wherever this is posted. You can drop it into the resume feedback. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe, all that stuff to help the YouTube algorithm feed that beast. Thanks, guys.